Hello, this is Sharon Fitzpatrick. I'm the editor of Presentation Expert, and this is Dishing on Presentations with Echo Swinford and Sandy Johnson, both Microsoft PowerPoint MVPs and part of the board of directors for the Presentation Guild. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
So I got really excited about the Guild back in Presentation Summit. I think it was 2015 when we were in New Orleans, and I was really excited about what you guys were trying to do because I think this community is so passionate about collaboration and trying to make and help everybody else. That's what I love. You know, you can ask the experts at the summit. Now we're talking about we're doing a webinar called Ask the Experts, but let's talk a little bit about what the Presentation Guild is and why you started it.
Oh, well, the Presentation Guild is it's a not-for-profit. We're an official not-for-profit trade association for the presentations industry. And it started because a few years ago, I was reinstalling, I think it was Photoshop, to be honest. It was an Adobe product. And, you know, I got it all reinstalled and I had to reset up my account and this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden that thing popped up that says, what do you do? And in this particular case, it had a list of, I think, every kind of graphic design you could think of. Sandy, we talked about it. It was like,
yes.
It was like interior design, magazine design, billboard,
animation.
Yeah, everything except presentation. And I was like, you know, I have had it. This has got to stop. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no place for me. There needs to be a place for presentation. Where's presentation design? And we run into that over and over and over again. So honestly, we started it because there just wasn't a spot for us. So we decided to make a spot. There's a whole industry of people who do presentations. So.
Well, I think what's really exciting about this group too is the fact that you're all passionate about what you do. You're all individual business owners, or you work for a corporation, but you really work together as a team.
Yeah, you know, Echo called. I don't think there was a person you called. I don't think there was anyone who said, no, I couldn't help. And you recruited the board members, and I like to say that we are in an industry where we can't help but help people, and that our goal, the mission of the Guild here was all started to elevate the industry, to give presentation professionals the support they need to do their jobs. That said, we want people who aren't necessarily professionals, but who want to create or participate in great presentations to have access to expert content.
And that fits our audience. We have a lot of our audience is HR and training, and they do a lot of presentations. And I think that's why I'm excited about our Ask the Expert webinar series, the first one coming up this month, actually, in a few weeks. And 2 weeks from today, I believe. So
I'm excited.
I think, yeah, that's kind of exciting. So it's your official 1-year anniversary launch, even though we kind of started talking about this back at the summit in New Orleans in 2015. You officially launched last year. Tell me about it. How does it feel a year later?
So, you know, it feels like a lot longer than a year for us because it actually has been a lot longer than a year. So back in New Orleans, when let me back up a little bit even farther. So I think that I started calling everyone. I had this big epiphany, like, we need to do this back in 2013 somewhere. That was when I had really had it. And so then in 2013 and 14, I started calling people who had always said, you know, I need this, I need this. There were a couple of people who were MVPs. There were a couple of people who were not MVPs. Various people who had approached me throughout the years for, we need to have a trade association. So I started calling them around 2014 or 2013, 2014. And that's when we really started working on it. It was, I think, late 2014, mid 2014. So that took us a year just to get, you know, bylaws figured out, start the whole not-for-profit paperwork and applications and all of that. So then about 2015, we were like, okay, now we need to start bringing in the experts. And those were all the people who were attending Presentation Summit. You know, that's our tribe, and those are our people. That's when we contacted you, and we contacted various other people. And, you know, we had that meeting at the Hard Rock. So we were at the Hard Rock Cafe in New Orleans, and we rolled this out and said, here's what we've been working on the past year, and we want you guys to come on board and help us like really start getting this moving. And so we called all of you the Hard Rockers. So we have this small group of people we rely on called the Hard Rockers, and that started in 2015. So then we worked another year, and then fast forward to 2016, and we did our official launch. So it took a couple years to get there. So since that launch, your question is about how does it feel a year later. So I just want to preface it by saying it's been a lot longer than a year. So it feels like a long time. We officially launched, and we've just continued what we've been doing. We've been, I feel like it's more stable though. Sandy, I mean, don't you agree? I feel like we have more content. We have our forums are very active. People are starting to find them and use them. We have a
foundation. We have a foundation in place that we can build upon.
So yeah, I mean, that feels great.
Well, I also think you have some really great tools. So one of my favorites is the salary survey, because I think, you know, talking about finding your niche, you don't really have any information on what the value is for your niche. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. You know, we launched our benchmark salary survey exactly a year ago now. And we will be launching the survey itself, the second survey, around summit time. So in a few weeks, people will have the opportunity around the globe. This is a global survey. Last year, we just focused on the US. We're launching it globally. And we will want presentation professionals, admins, anyone who touches presentations to participate in this survey. After, I think around the 26th, we'll have it open for 30 days, and then we'll launch a report in January.
Great, and we'd love to cover it again like we did last year.
Yes, we're really excited. Now we can start to see if there's, I mean, it's only been a year, and change might be very, very gradual, but now we can start to measure against what we learned last year.
Well, I can imagine if I was someone who did presentations in a corporation, I was able to go and say, here's the value as perceived by the industry, and it becomes a great tool for somebody to hopefully get more recognition as well as more dollars for what they do.
No, we had a member who specifically used the information from that survey to negotiate salary.
That's awesome.
That's exactly how it should be used.
And there's so many people who do presentations as part of their job, or maybe it is the focus of their job. Maybe they're actually in creative services or design, but there is anything comprehensive about, you know, what do presentationists actually do, and what do they actually earn, and what kind of education do they have. And so, you know, just putting it out there to help determine the value, and to be able to take that into HR or into just your superior and say, look, people actually do this. There really is a need for this kind of thing. So you can see how that tool will help elevate the industry for everybody, down to the individual, but for the industry at large. Well, and the other thing that we've been working on this past year, which I am so psyched about, I'm just so stoked. I think this is the most amazing. I know, right?
Yeah, I can't wait.
One of our goals is to elevate the industry and to help others, you know, to help everybody. One of our goals is to offer certifications so that you can take this test and validate your skills. And you can take that into HR, your boss, whomever, and say, look, I'm legit. I do this well. I do this as well as anybody else. I have this certification. I've taken the test. I've done the learning. You know, maybe this can help salaries also. So it's a process of validation. So we are getting to the point where we will be able to offer certifications. The first step to that is actually creating a list of standards that we can measure against. And we are almost finished with that, and we'll be publishing these probably, I think we'll publish them publicly when the actual certifications are ready. And until then, they'll be available for Guild members so that you can see those standards we're going to measure against. And there will also be either an education or an experience component. You'll have to have a combination of education and experience that you have to document. And so maybe, you know, if you have a full-time job doing presentations, that's 2,000 hours worth of presentation work right there that you can document. I mean, just off the top. But there's also, you know, do you train your colleagues? Do you do lunch and learns where you show them little tips? Do you attend Presentation Summit? Do you do webinars like this where you learn about PowerPoint? I mean, there's just all kinds of ways that you can add to that experience and document that experience. So you'll have to do something like that, and then you'll be able to review the standards and know what you have to know in order to pass the test and be certified.
So Sharon could offer, I don't know what she could be off. I don't think it's credits, but points toward that certification when you promote the webinar.
Oh yeah,
you could
definitely.
say listeners will earn blank points toward their certification.
Yeah, it's not like news where but yeah, it's towards your learning, your continuing education, I guess, even though it's not true for EUs, but yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. I love that. I mean, I also love the idea of standards because I think I'm the brand police at PresentationXpert, and I'm constantly telling them this is the color, this is how we use the logo, this is what it's supposed to be, and created a standard just so that they know how to do it, which is really important.
That's great.
One of the things I love about the Guild is I call it just-in-time learning. If I want to learn something about design or a tip, or like when you did the Prezi webinar, I think that's a real value to Guild members. And I want to make sure, you guys talk about that and kind of what your philosophy is in creating those events.
That's a good question. Quite honestly, it is what have our members asked to see, and what have they asked to learn about, and that really drives a lot of it. For example, some of our, we found in our salary survey that with presentations, there's kind of a wide mix. So a lot of people are working in very large companies. They might be in smaller departments, but they're in very large companies. Another about half of our presentation people are self-employed or employed at actual presentation studios. And so they're working very much independently. There's maybe only one or two people. So it's very small, very large. So especially for those who are running their own business, we heard loud and clear that they want more information about running their own business. And so they asked, we delivered. Or 2 days from now, we'll have a webinar about going independent. And it's from another MVP in a different area, but he went independent, went out on his own consulting about 7 years ago. And it's a lot of just really good practical information on running your own business and what do you have to do and how do you have to document things. And so it's a lot of really good information. So that's one of the things we're putting out there.
Well, one of the things I love is, I always love hearing Julie talk about design. So I love the fact that I know every month and I can hear her 20-minute presentation. And what's great is I can go back and re-listen to it if I can't make it, because sometimes it's a hard time for me based on the time difference. So I love the fact that that repository of information is another reason why I love the Presentation Guild, because I feel
being a member,
yeah, being a member, bringing value. I think that's really what it's all about. The other thing too is I'm in several industries because I'm a consultant as well. I run my own business, and I love this community. I've never seen a community that is so interactive, so helpful, so much of a family. And I think it's a real blessing. So, and I think that the Presentation Guild is one way that you're kind of continuing the family.
Someone made the comment, and I don't know who it was, so I don't know who to attribute this to, but it was, we have the Presentation Summit, and that is every year like coming home. You see old friends, you make new friends, but all like-minded people. The Presentation Guild is like the Presentation Summit, but every day.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you get that every day, that feeling of family. The forums, for example, members can go on our forums and have discussions, ask questions, technical questions, complain, share information. It's an awesome resource that really pulls together that family feel.
That's great. What would you say is the biggest surprise since you came up with this idea and have started it?
You know what? And this is a good thing. I don't think we expected the international component to be as large. Our membership has a large international contingency, and we are so grateful for that. And really, we are striving to make sure that we service them and we have that global appeal.
That's great. Is there anybody on the board that's international that brings that in?
Hitesh is international.
Oh, that's true.
International. Yeah. I mean, he's our one international board member. We had to start fairly close to home just to get the mother going, is kind of what I keep saying. And so I know that someday we will have international chapters. We just have to get there. We have to get solid and processes and foundations and things here before we know what that looks like international. But I mean, that is a goal. I don't know that it's going to happen this year, but it will happen. I know.
We do have Chantal who works on the certification. We have Kristaps Petersons, who is from Latvia, and he is on the membership committee. So we definitely want to, and we welcome anyone who wants to participate in the Guild.
Oh my gosh, and we have people all over the world who are participating.
Yes.
We see the same thing. I mean, there are certain people that I know come to every webinar. Miguel Montero is one. He comes to every webinar. Hi, Miguel. So, it is, as I said, a real community where you really get to know each other, and they also keep you straight. So if you're not doing it right, they definitely tell you you're doing
That's
it right.
Exactly.
No, they'll let you know. I've told clients this even, they've called me up and said, can you do training or whatever? And I'll say, who else are you talking to? And they'll rattle off 3 other people I know. And I've told clients straight up, you know what? You are fine with any one of us. You have done your research. You've made a good choice. I know all of these people. They will all be very good for you. And they're just like, wow. What are you saying? It's a much more collaborative community than it is competitive. I mean, there's room for all of us in here. Now, it may not be that way 20 years from now, and I hope that we help it get that way, actually. But it is. It's very cooperative and collaborative. It's kind of neat in that respect.
Co-opetition, so to speak. But I mean, it's definitely a really important thing to do. I love it. I actually have somebody else that does webinars as well, and he and I go back and forth and share ideas, or we kvetch about, okay, what about this platform? Do you really believe they did that? And how can we get around that? And so, yeah, it's the same thing. Any words of wisdom you want to tell our audience that you've learned in all your years of experience? What's, say, your number one PowerPoint or presentation tip?
I have this series of questions that I ask every client when they ask me for help with the presentation. I guess clearly I always want to understand the audience, and the tip is, and this is so generic, it's not a PowerPoint tip, it's a presentation tip. You have to appeal to the audience, and there are different ways that you can do that. There's science, there's design, there's all kind of ways to make sure your audience is happy.
You're exactly right. Really, it always starts out with know your audience, and everybody's like, yeah. You speak to CEOs differently than you speak to the sales reps, because they need different information. And it really is important. So mine is Coco Chanel. Get it all done and then remove something. Less is more.
Less is more. Absolutely.
Or as they say on Project Runway, make it work.
Make it work. That's the other one. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's something, I do a lot of mentoring for my university and their communication students. And one of the things I always tell them is, put yourself in their shoes. What is it that they want to hear? What is it that you're going to give them that helps them understand what's in it for them? You don't want to give them something that you think looks useful but has no value to them. So you really have to figure out what the happy medium is. So yeah, I have a creative brief that I use for my clients before I start. And I get all that information up front, because I think a lot of times they've never gotten to the point where they actually sat down and wrote it.
Right.
So, yeah, and otherwise I'm looking at a blank piece of paper. So, well, this has been great. Thank you both. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And
we're looking forward to it. Can't wait.
This is yay! And we're going to be doing our Ask the Experts webinar. Our first one is September 19th at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern. And this is Sharon Fitzpatrick, and this is Edition on Presentation, and special thanks to Sandy and Echo for being my guest today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon. It's always good to talk.